Hi everyone, I'm Nodvoro, and welcome to Too Long Didn't Play, a series where we recap all the games you didn't have time to play or didn't want to spend $80 on. And if you didn't pick up on that unsubtle dig, today we're going to be covering the Outer Worlds 2. As per all Too Long Didn't Play videos, we have a unique counter to keep things interesting, and today's counter is the money counter, named after the money-hungry Mr. Krabs, where we're going to count up all the decisions in my playthrough which were made due to pure greed. With that out the way, let's find out what our favourite Moon Man's getting up to, and if we can save Arcadia. Welcome to Too Long Didn't Play. The Outer Worlds 2 starts off generating our shaders for us, which happens every time you boot up this damn thing. We eventually get sent to the main menu, which I normally wouldn't mention, but the Moon Man here says some funny shit every time you load in, which is relevant to what story beats you're up to, so I wanted to give it some credit. Starting our game, we're introduced to Captain Will Smith, who slaps the shit out of her subordinate and crashes into a rock and dies. Lucky for us though, this is just part of a TV serial, which is introducing us to the Earth Directorate, an agency which was formed as an arbiter of intergalactic disputes amongst many star system colonies. Much like the UN, when they're not meddling in everyone else's business, they're shooting moonmen and old people to death.
Of all colonists.
Turns out our protagonist is also part of the Earth Directorate, as we get thrown into our character creator when Mole. We finally create this genetic freak of a man who not only has lost all his limbs, but unfortunately is also part of the Island Boys. Moving into our background choices, I like to be true to myself and pick the degenerate gambler lifestyle, which will add our first point to our money counter. This moves us onto our trait selection, where untrue to myself, we go with the lucky trait, and I wish I had this when I lost all my life savings betting on Red a year back and lost my family. Let's go to skill selection, where I choose to boost my science and speech skills. 1, because I want to make a science weapon build, and 2, because I was scared most of those weapons would suck shit, so I wanted to be able to talk myself out of all situations. Unlike our Fallout 3 playthrough on the channel, I now know how to type on the character creation screen, however we still call our character player name and dive into the game. We kick off with a mission briefing from this guy who's wearing really long gloves. I mean, who even needs gloves that long? Is it a gauntlet or a glove? Here's our initial exposition dump and tells us we're heading to the star system of Arcadia, which is outside the Earth Directorate's jurisdiction. Our mission is to meet up with a Directorate agent named DeVries, who's en route to Horizon Point Station, a location where skip drives were manufactured. Skip drives in the Outer Worlds are a technology which allow humans in this universe to partake in intergalactic travel. However, DeVries has information on how the skip drives are responsible for dangerous risks being formed throughout the Arcadia system, so we're going to have to figure that shit out and infiltrate the station under DeVries' guidance. Feel confused yet? Try writing a YouTube video for it. We're finally in control as commander player name, and we start in the cockpit of our ship, the Incognito. After jumping into the doorway, we head outside and we're stopped by our first companion, Agent Niall Zabara. He gives us our tactical time dilation device, which for brevity's sake, I'll call it the VATS device, as it's clearly inspired by Fallout's VAT system, and then he asks us for some fatherhood advice. We respond with the cynicism of a man who's job hopped for 28 years of his life.
Not looking to be contrary or nothing, Commander, but that runs counter to everything we're taught at the Academy.
And regret it, as we get a Telltale Games prompt that Niles will remember it. After showing we aren't fit to be a leader of any sort, we test out our new Matrix ability, which I think is pretty cool, and have to try get into our cabin, but the door's not working. We quickly turn into John McClane, where we find our credentials, which allows us to head to our mission terminal and get on the blower to Augustine DeVries. DeVries is just a generally angry person who's adopting this really antagonistic pose as she speaks to us. We piss her off during this conversation, so she yells at us for about 5 minutes about how we don't take things seriously enough, and chances are that we're going to get killed by the Protectorate, who are the authoritarian faction who rule the Arcadia system and also happen to be experimenting with the skip drives. DeVries has finally had enough of us and hangs up, which I welcome because I hate getting scolded, and we fly to Horizon Point Station, which admittedly is quite the spectacle. After admiring the increased budget of this game for a bit, we do what we always do in open world RPGs and save the game before trying to see if we can kill all of our companions. Well, that's disappointing. It's time to play the game properly, and while we're looting a whole bunch of shit that chances are we're never going to use, like in the first Outer Worlds, we get informed that the power to the station is down and we need to reactivate it if we want any chance of getting in. Luckily for us, after a bit of searching, we come across this fuse box to reactivate the power. Unlucky for us, it's missing a fuse core. Lucky for us again though, this guy right behind us might have had a heart attack whilst going to put in the fuse core, as we find it right next to his body. We also rob his corpse and take his badge. We use our core and slip it in. Oh, fuck, that feels good. Which reactivates the power.
That's good.
But it also reactivates a bunch of auto mechanicals intent on killing us.
That's bad.
To get out of this, we have a chat with our team to see how we can avoid almost certain death. Even though we want to hear more from that robot lingering in the background, Agent Helen Pascal actually comes up with a good plan to use a nearby intercom and the credentials of the deceased mechanic we just looted to convince whoever's on the other end of the line to stand the robots down. Lucky for us, a Protectorate cadet who must have been born yesterday is the one and only guard on the other end of the intercom. We convince him we're a Protectorate soldier who's recently undergone a mental refreshment, and he shuts down the defenses for us. We hear a lot more about mental refreshments in our playthrough, so for those playing at home, which is everyone because this is YouTube, a mental refreshment is a chemical lobotomy the Protectorate force upon any undisciplined soldiers, and the outcome of the procedure is to make them more suggestible and compliant. Now the defenses are all down, we fly over the cuckoo's nest and onto the next section, where the freeze transmits to us what all horror movie fans hate hearing, that the plan's going to shit and we need to split up. We rally our troops together because the Freeze is losing her mind, and like Thanos, we decide to do it ourselves. We send Helen and Niles, who are staring way too intently at us, to go to the security ops to do whatever a game NPC does when you're not around, while we elect to go to Central Dispatch to disable the Protectorate communications. We only picked this option because we hate stealth, and heading to the security ops sounded like it was going to be a stealth mission. Before heading off, Niles takes our piss poor advice from before, which fills Helen in with zero confidence.
We'll stay well out of trouble, won't we, Cadet?
That's right. I'm taking your words to heart, Commander. Not aiming to play hero. Just here to get the job done.
Right.
Which all but confirms to me that one of them is probably going to die. We head on alone through the Central Dispatch, where we have to spam our VAT system to counteract our terrible aim. And when that doesn't work, we take down this bloke with a metal-armed juicer. Who said amputees can't punch? After spilling the blood of our enemies, we finally find the room where we can sever the communication network. So, I guess we sever the communication network, and now it's time to meet back up with our team. On the way there, not only do we lose our ability to aim, but we also lose our ability to punch too, with strength comparable to Homer when he takes up boxing. Whoever said amputees could punch? We finally get back outdoors and are just a short walk away from our team when we hear Niles and Helen get into a bit of trouble as we hear an explosion at their location. Checking it out, we confirm our theory and see Niles lying in a pool of his own blood after having one of his arms blown off. He asks for our advice and has come to the right man as we're a four-limbed amputee. If I'm being completely honest with you, I thought Niles was the one who was going to die first because he's a token naive character, but our robot confirms it's Helen who isn't making it out.
There is a 90% chance Agent Pascal is trapped under rubble. 87% chance she is mortally wounded beyond help. 85% chance she's deceased.
And because we don't want the game to end in the tutorial, we tell Niles we aren't going to try save Helen and stand him down from the mission. Because he's as useless as a horse with a broken leg at this point, we head off to finish the mission and try to turn him into glue, which unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, doesn't work. We take Niles' gun because he's armless and continue our mission as we use his gun quite effectively as a melee weapon and finally find a freeze where we can recover the unsealed skip core. Unfortunately for us, this reeks of a double crossing and we don't get the reception we thought we would.
Can't you get anything right? You were supposed to be dead already.
Hey now, that's just mean. Once she stops insulting us, DeFreeze tells us she's gone rogue, and rather than recover the skip drive, she sabotages the mission and activates it. If you're like me and struggling to follow at this point with the excessive dialogue, DeFreeze reveals herself as the get the mission done at all costs type, who you definitely don't want on your team, and then turns out she had her own mission to use the skip core to activate a large interdimensional rift which will destroy Horizon Point Station and everyone on it. She does this to keep the skip drive technology out of the Protectorate's hands. I'll miss Niles, Helen, but most of all, I'll miss you, Scarecrow, as we see the large rift begin to engulf the station. This is all done through a cutscene, as I'm sure the game didn't trust me to not just stand there and die, so player name makes his own way to a cryogenic escape pod and launches himself off Horizon Point as we watch it get destroyed by the rift. As we float through space, we hear radio broadcasts which inform us of what's happening during our long nap, including a company merger between Space's Choice and Auntie Cleo's to make Auntie's Choice. Trust me, that comes up quite a bit, which is why I'm mentioning it now. After an undisclosed amount of time drifting through the deep void of space, we eventually get picked up by an arcade claw machine, slippery grip and all, and are saved by the incognito. This is a perfect time to finish the prologue and remind us what game we're playing. About that time for a video game defrosting, and luckily for player name, when we defrost, rather than see our wife get shot, this is a much less traumatizing thawing as we see Niles survive Horizon Point Station, brandishing a shiny new arm and a new haircut.
Hear me, Val. They were out there for almost 10 years.
Niles sets off and Val, and yes, I'm on nickname basis with her, takes us out of our chamber and gives us our pay for the last mission, which hasn't been adjusted for inflation. After getting paid, we get an update on what's happened in the world for the past 10 years, as Val fills us in that Auntie's Choice has invaded Arcadia in an attempt to liberate it with the power of capitalism, which we like the sound of that, so we'll add a number to our counter. Assisting us with exposition on our main mission, we also find out that the rift caused by the freeze on Horizon Point has been exacerbated by Auntie's Choice's fleet. Does a double plural make sense there? Val tells us no one can leave the Arcadia colony due to micro rift forming, and the mega rift from Horizon Point will destroy Arcadia within 10 years. Damn, put us back in the freezer. To finish off the exposition dump and steer our mission, we also find out the freeze survived Horizon Point 2. We don't know where she is, but she's up to no good. After some time, Val finally gives our ears a rest and leaves us to level up in peace. With our first level up, we put our generous 2 points into lockpick and observation, which with the power of hindsight is a terrible call. We then lean into our science build, selecting the rapid recharge perk, which increases gadget recharge rate. The perk system in the Outer Worlds is a massive improvement from the first game. I'm just putting it out there. We go to speak to Niles, who like Voldemort has mastered the art of talking with the back of his head. Oh wait, no, he's just being rude and looking away from us. He must have lost his manners from watching his entire team die around him. Niles informs us that Freeze is taking down an Earth Directorate satellite, and if she chose to, she could destroy Arcadia by destabilizing the Horizon Point rift. Given we don't really want to die, we say we'll help, but only for pure revenge purposes, not to save Arcadia. Lucky Niles is more switched on than us, and he tells us that DeFreeze is AWOL, but we may find information of her plans and her location on the Vox relay station on a place called Paradise Island. How did he make that leap of logic, I hear you ask? Well, let's let Niles explain.
She did follow protocol, established a safe room there. Wager that's where we'll find clues as to her present plans and whereabouts.
Yeah, what he said. Turns out the Vox station is highly guarded by the Protectorate, so we can't just go walk up and knock on the door, so Niles suggests we explore Paradise Island first to find a way in. That's enough for me, so no time like the present, so we set a course for our destination and head to Paradise Island. After landing, Val wants to delay our fun as much as she possibly can and intercepts us on our way out. I'm not going to go into it too much in this video as it's already long enough, but when you explore the Outer Worlds too, you can discover these locked boxes as well as advanced encryption keys. When you have enough keys to unlock a box, you can return to your ship and get a cool unique item. It is a really fun system, but we don't use much of the things we unlocked on this playthrough, so after this, I'm not going to mention it again. Except for right now, as we're forced into unlocking one, which gives us another gadget to use, which is an acid spray gun which disintegrates corpses. Now that's great for a stealth build, but shit for our build, so we end up not using it at all. We head off the ship with Niles and Val and get our first taste of the open levels of the Outer Worlds too. I hate to be this guy as I don't like being negative about games, but there's just something about the colours which makes what should be a beautiful game look a bit eh. I don't know what it is, but if you could tell me in the comments, it'd be much appreciated. Our first task on Paradise Island is to check in with the town of Fairfield to get some information on DeFreeze or how to get into the Vox station. But as per our Fallout 3 playthrough, I'm an OCD gamer, so we immediately go off the beaten path and head into this Mirelurk, Crabble Cave. After fighting off our crabs by using over-the-counter lotion, I return to the Outer Worlds too and take down a couple crabbles. They're pretty tough, but we're a survivor and make our way through the dungeon where we stumble across this rift anomaly. Turns out all the warnings characters have given us to this point are correct, as we go to jump in and get disintegrated and killed. Loading back in and making our way to the cave again, we find this lab near the rift anomalies and read a terminal which tells us our first science weapon, the shrink ray, is nearby. Unfortunately, the path to it is blocked by the rift. I'm going to save you all 50 minutes of in-game time right now. Because I'm a science build, I really wanted a science weapon to start my playthrough and tried and failed to jump on the roof of the building for way too long before realizing I probably just didn't have the required device to access it using the rifts. As you'll see through this playthrough, I gave up eventually and left empty-handed to head to Fairfield. On the way there, we come across a ransacked caravan, which we take as an opportunity to stock up on items and a fancy new pistol, which comes in handy when a bunch of rogue robots from the hood jump us down the road. While we do take them down successfully, they bring another tutorial to our attention of a poisonous gas throughout the game called Ziranium, which much like most poisonous gases in real life, kills you if you stay in it too long. After surviving the bot massacre, we make it to Fairfield, where we're stopped at the gate by a guard with this ridiculous air. And this is a good teaching moment of the Outer Worlds too, that just because you meet a speech skill requirement, it doesn't mean it's going to benefit you or even be successful, which I actually really like. This is where we find out Auntie's choice has taken over Fairfield as part of their Arcadian liberation, and lucky all they care about is money, so the guard lets us in, but not before guilting us to try and find a friend of hers who hasn't returned from a caravan run they took. If you go back about 20 seconds, you'll remember a specific caravan that had been massacred from earlier, so we head back there and it turns out we aren't the best corpse robbers as we miss looting the guard's friend. Second time's a charm as we collect a tossable card from her body. We return it to the guard, which is kind of underwhelming, but nets us a bit of Artie's choice karma. So we're happy, I suppose, as that's the pro-capitalist choice for our money, money, money counter. We also get information from her to speak with Minister Milverstreet, who knows everyone in Fairfield. As we explore Fairfield a bit, we first stumble into this medical practice. Because there appears to be no patient confidentiality in Fairfield, we rudely interrupt this conversation with a doctor and patient who may need to amputate a leg. Because we have absolutely no medical skills at all, we can't do much on that side, so we offer to pay for our surgery. At this point, not only do we not have medical skills, we also have zero money. We can't afford to assist anyway, so we leave them to it. Not my circus, not my monkey. It's time for a drink after a hard day's work, so we head to the bar and speak with a bartender who looks like this and get the gossip around town. We get a bit of town lore and learn that Fairfield is run by Minister Milverstreet, who's a diplomat, but he shares command with an Officer Core who's blunt and murderous. That sounds like my type of lady. She also tells us a little bit about the Vox relay, all about the Protector executions that take place there. Supposedly, there's a direct way into the relay, which is over a heavily guarded bridge, and we get tipped off that there may be a unit of soldiers nearby who could help us with that fight if that's the path we choose. We've got a whole bunch of shit to do at this point to save Arcadia, but instead of that important stuff, we go speak to this down on his luck drunkard who's carrying on like a pork chop in the street. His name's Huel Chaundry, which isn't a name, and turns out he's looking for help. Huel set up a meeting with a business partner in a dangerous part of Paradise Island and wants us to attend for him. Supposedly his business partner has discovered advanced protectorate technology, which will make him rich. He has no further information on the tech, but we like the sound of money, so we tell him we'll help him out and head to Spire Grove. While we are excited for the opportunity for riches, Debbie Down and Niles isn't, and he interrupts our quest for money to have a heart-to-heart. He mentions he's tracked down an old friend, who he has some less than stellar history with, to a town called Westport, and asks if we can go visit him. His mate's name is Zebulon Tran, which reminds me too much of Calculon from All My Circus, so I'm just going to call him that. We agree to take Niles' quest on board and immediately get overwhelmed by our quest log. To help make our decision, we look where the money is, and we elect to do Huel's quest first and head to Spire Grove, where unfortunately we get Skyrimmed, and beelining it to the quest doesn't work as we get stuck at this elevator and have to run all the way around this mountain. We come across a character named Redactor Quesnel, who has a filthy mullet. She gives us a collectible task to go get some comic books for her. Each planet has one of these tasks, and I'm going to make a blanket rule now that other than a tossable collectible quest, which comes up a little bit later, I do not give a fuck about collectible tasks, so I'm not going to mention them again. Continuing on with Huel's quest, we come up against a bunch of what appears to be endlessly respawning robots, which we think are going to be good for free XP, but they're actually quite good ammo drains. So after fighting them for a bit, we run away like a filthy coward and end up discovering this crabbing tower we elect to explore while being creamed by enemies from all sides. We probably aren't understanding the seriousness of the situation as we elect to read this data pad, which gives us some information about the Moby Dick of Crabbles. Unfortunately for us though, the other Crabbles in the area don't respect quiet reading time and continue to try kill us, so we have to sprint out to the crabbing tower to escape. Like Lemony Snicket's in another series of unfortunate events, our escape leads us to this mysterious cave where we see a bunch of dead scientists, which does not bode well for player name. What does bode well for player name though, is the fact that discovering the dead bodies lets us level up to level 3, where we dump 2 points in lockpick. The whole reason I did that was because there was a level 3 locked door at the crabbing tower, and while I did return there in my playthrough, I learned very early on that often loot in these locations is not worth it. What is worth it though is this unique helmet we find in the mysterious cave called Malpractice. The special trait of this helmet is it increases damage output when your toxicity levels are crashing. Now I've just thrown that out there, what the fuck does that mean, I can hear you ask? Basically, the Outer Worlds 2 prevents you from spamming your heal boosters, so if you use too many in quick succession, your toxicity level becomes too high and you have to wait for it to crash before you can heal again. I don't know the meta or if this helmet is actually that good, but it seemed to go well with my science build, so I used it for the rest of the game. While I over-explained that game mechanic, I walked around the mysterious cave, read another data pad about the skeleton Crabble, and was unable to do anything with any of the scientific MacGuffins in there, like this Phonotron, so I eventually gave up and left. I do promise you I'll find my Moby Dick later though. Let's try stop getting distracted and get back to our quest. We leave the cave and run into even more Crabbles? For fuck's sake. At this point it's just about conserving ammo, so we leg it and run away letting our companions do all the fighting for us. Call us Glenn Powell and Edgar Wright's box office flop because we're the running man for the next 30 minutes as we avoid a bunch of enemies to eventually wind up in Spire Grove. As we search around for something to do, we hear this.
Don't fret. With these boots, I can fly!
And turn around to see that Jackson could indeed not fly. Investigating his body, we get this pretty unoriginal joke from Obsidian and talk to two Auntie's Choice scientists who are stuck at the top of this platform. They explain that the reason they've been stuck up there is one of their other colleagues had fallen to their death and landed in the gears of the lift. Jackson, who died not a hero but in fact an idiot, was trying to get down with a pair of experimental thruster boots. Unlike Red Bull, they don't give you wings, but they do give you a double jump, so we pick them up as well as the schematics Jackson had for Huel, which was supposed to make them rich. We're not monsters, yet, so before returning to Huel, we test out our new double jump to save the scientists. Unfortunately for us, as we're scaling the mountain, which is a complete wrong way, we win a Darwin Award next to Jackson as we join him in the afterlife. After reloading, we go the correct way, which is quite obviously the correct pathway, and it leads us directly to this drive overloader and then to the platform with the trapped scientists. We load the drive overloader in, which allows us to lower the platform, saving the day, all whilst crushing the deceased scientist's body into the gears. Another job well done. Speaking with the ones we saved, we try extorting them for a bit of extra money, but we don't have enough speech skills, meaning we can't add anything to our counter. Before returning to Huel, we get the bright idea now that we have these double jump boots, we may be able to return to retrieve the shrink ray by breaking the game. I'm going to go slightly out of chronology here for a bit because it took me 30 minutes of attempting this, failing miserably, turning the game off, going to bed, being unable to sleep, so turning the game back on, until I finally use this bit of broken pipe, and a bit of luck, to work my way up and get the shrink ray early. Let's quickly fix the timeline I broke, as in between failing and succeeding, I did turn in the quest to Huel, as you can see on the screen now. We're given the schematics we looted from Jackson, and turns out his $1 million tech was an advanced potato peeler. He's pretty disappointed as it's not mind-blowing, although I personally think there's a place in the world for easier peeling utensils. Huel then asks if we found anything else, which gives us an option to turn over the double jump boots. but as I already spoiled, I use them later to get the shrink ray, so we keep them to ourselves and say farewell to Hugh and his peeling schematics. Let's get back to chronological order. We're going back to the future to where we have our shrink ray and are in the mood to test it out with no consequences to ourselves. We save our game and head into Fairfield, where we open fire on the guards. To our surprise, they're overleveled, and by the time we actually get one to shrink, we're shot to death, which is a pretty fair penalty for attempting to shoot a guard. Round 2 of testing our shrink ray out, we head back towards the Fairfield saloon and try down our old friend Hugh. The shrink ray works a bit better on him, and it allows you to shrink enemies down to a size where you can jump on them and crush them to death. The townfolk obviously don't like you killing all their citizens, so they all turn on us, and after we fail to shrink this bloke twice, we Men in Black memory wipe him and continue playing the game the way it should be played. Unfortunately, after all that time getting the shrink ray, we realise now that A, it churns through shock rod ammo faster than I can say churns through shock rod ammo, and B, well, that's about it. So at the moment, it's not worth using, so we shelve it until much later down the line. Continuing our main quest, we head to the town hall to speak with Minister Milverstreet and interrupt his conversation with Auntie Cleo, who definitely draws a grey line right through homage and blatant intellectual property theft, as she looks exactly like Mum from Futurama. Auntie Cleo, is chewing out Minister Milverstreet and Officer Core, the violent sociopath we heard about before. After they're done jabbering away, we have a chat with Milverstreet and Core, who gives us the old dilemma of, we both have a quest for you, but you can only choose one. We hear out Milverstreet first, who says he can help us get into the Vox, but he's got a funny hat and beard. So after hearing him out, we go to Core, who doesn't have a funny hat or beard. Right there sums up how in depth we get on this channel when we need to make a moral decision. So we decide to go with Core, even though she comes across like an arsehole. She promises to help us get into the Vox, but first gives us a quest of her own. She wants us to go sabotage an automech repair center that the Protectorate are currently trying to get up and running again, which hopefully will prevent them having more mechanical reinforcements than Mr. House. We're a man of action and not a man of listening, so while she does tell us before going there we should get the necessary credentials from a location called the Ministry of Accuracy, we blow her off and stupidly think, fuck it, we're going to figure it out ourselves. Before heading out, we go to a nearby workbench to test out the crafting in this game, which luckily we did because after we're done we get promoted to level 4. We use our points this time to improve our guns up to level 2 so we can increase our murder efficiency. We also take the perk that helps us sell stolen items for more and bribe people for less. If that's not a money decision, I don't know what is. On the way to the repair center, we come across this arbiter training facility, which we think is a great idea to explore. We quickly realize we don't want to die, so like Grandpa Simpson when he walks into the brothel Bart works at, we quickly do a 180 and get the hell out of Dodge. I don't know what procced this, but as we run away through this Auntie's Choice camp, we get informed that the Outer Worlds 2 has a radio system which is similar to Fallout's. Now I ain't going through the copyright battle I did to release my Fallout Too Long Didn't Play, so we're going to ignore that and pretend the radio doesn't exist. Even though I wasn't listening, I was trying to figure out the radio, supposedly player name heard some people at the camp talking about some personnel trapped in a lab nearby. We go to check it out, and if we actually listened, we would have heard that the lab employees have become homicidal, and we're there to rescue the only sane one who's inside. As per usual, our sneaking starts off alright, but quickly turns to shit as we try to scale the building. This led me to camping like a noob in the roof and spamming the overleveled enemies with grenades and my pistol until everyone was either dead or, like all stupid video game NPCs, hadn't seen me for about 5 seconds, so they forgot there was a murderous psycho in the roof lobbing grenades at them and leave me be. Sneaking around leads us to another NPC that looks absolutely ridiculous, and his name's Ormsby. He explains that the lab had been researching nearby spores, which is the reason everyone's turned a little bit stabby killy. He sends us on a fetch quest to collect some of the spores and download some research data, which should help us concoct a cure for his homicidal colleagues, even though we've already killed about 3/4 of them. We go looking for them, and first up is the spores, which takes us to the top of this mountain where this huge bitch of a raptidon is feeling extra protective. Lucky for us, we know how to deal with giants, so we whip out our shrink ray and tell him to pick on someone his own size. He ends up picking on someone his own size quite well actually, and yeets us across the map before the 3 of us are able to put him down. Because we're no longer being mauled to death, we're free to collect the spores and head across the map to find the necessary data at this small cottage. As we approach, we sneak up past this guy who's sweeping blood up off the floor. And if he had watched our Mafia 2 Too Long Didn't Play, I could recommend 2 guys who could do a better job for him. Entrant opens the door and is watching us, so we have to clean up the blood. Joe and Vito are surprisingly good at this, and who knows, if this Mafia stuff doesn't work out for them, maybe they can start a cleaning business. Once we're inside, we download the data from this terminal, and because we've got what we need, we return to Auntie Cleo's lab, where again, we get caught sprinting in, so now we have to put down a couple more people that we're trying to save. At this point, the whole mission seems pointless as most people are dead, but we still return the goods to Ormsby, who helps us synthesize an antidote. Prior to being able to do that though, we use our own antidote on one of the last remaining employees, which is a bullet to the brain. Finally, there's no more bullets flying at our head, so we're able to synthesize the actual antidote that doesn't kill people, and then play hardball with Ormsby before we return it to him and swindle him for a couple extra credits. With our quest done, all the people we didn't brutally murder are saved, as Ormsby administers the antidote from the air filtration system. The reward for this quest is to get access to his case of loot, which teaches us about primers for our health kits, which is a system I completely forgot about and didn't use for the whole game. As we walk out of the lab, we see the employees are no longer homicidal, so we can calmly walk past them and continue on to the auto mech repair center for Cole's quest. If you remember from earlier, I didn't ever access credentials to enter this place, so Playname gets told to get fucked by the guard at the door, as he doesn't believe our poorly thought out lie without any ID. Knowing there's plenty of ways to skin a cat, we head around the side of the repair center to try sneak our way in, and lucky for us, our prayers are answered as we find this hidden entrance out back. Before entering the protected area, we search around for an easier way in, and are offered our first floor. The best way to describe the floor system in the Outer Worlds 2, if you do something within the gameplay enough, the game identifies that and offers you a floor, which usually comes with a positive and negative effect. In this situation, because the game noticed me crouching a lot, I get offered the bad knees floor, which makes me move faster while crouched, but when I get into the crouch position, my knees crack, which will alert people to my presence. As I'm not a stealth build, I take this for the hell of it, and sneak my way into the repair center. That last line's pretty important because I'm not a stealth build, so I immediately get spotted, and the entire base turns hostile against me. The next 2 hours of playtime involved me running around like a psycho, killing all of these enemies, including this one over-leveled guy, where I just had to pepper him from a distance for most of the time till he died. I definitely don't recommend anyone does this quest this way, but I can't complain as I level up to level 5 after killing the Protectorate soldiers, their mechs, and these innocent scientists. With their blood on my hands, we elect to honour the scientists by leveling up my science skill by 2. I'm pretty stoked with myself for surviving that onslaught for all of about 5 minutes until I realise that every innocent in this section is now petrified of me and refuses to talk. My joy gets crushed even further when I discover the only way to sabotage the facility as per Cole's instructions is to a massive cloud of Xyranium. I tried for about an hour to cheese my way through this, exploring the base for hints and all that fun stuff, until I came to the acceptance I'd hardlocked my way out of the story and would have to restart the game. After crying a mummy, kind of like this, and before quitting the game, and this too long didn't play episode, I decided to go on a murder spree and kill this NPC called Chief Dolphin something. In my entire playthrough, I was never happier than this moment when killing her procced an update to my quest, because I looted her body and found a note which informs us of a destroyed Dragoon nearby that's got some parts we need to strip it of. A short walk away, we find this broken down mech and remove its catalytic amplifier as you would a converter from a car. But rather than on-sell it, we take it back to the Arc Repair Center and use it to fix an unfinished gadget we found earlier. This gives us our gas energy deflect. Fuck it. It's a gas mask. It's a gas mask we can use to survive Xyranium. With our trusty new toy, we sneak into the facility to sabotage it, get swarmed by a bunch of bots, which we fight our way through, and access the terminal which we use to sabotage the facility. I let out a massive sigh of relief after the sabotage, as I was certain I had to abandon the Outer Worlds 2 and was glad I could continue putting 50 plus hours of effort into this video that barely anybody's going to watch. So I leave the Ark and return to Officer Cole. She's pretty happy with our work, even though we didn't follow her instructions and just killed everyone. And to hold up her part of the bargain, she tells us she'll order her troops to assist us pushing through the Protectorate defences at the Vox. She also tells us about a way to overload the Vox mechanical defences, but true to form, we ignore that part because we like doing things the hard way. We leave Core, and as an added bonus, she also gives us a new piece of armour which makes us look like that fat knight from Dark Souls. It only just occurred to me at this stage that I'd also completely neglected Niall's companion quest to meet his old friend Calculon, so we decide to make our way to Westport. We kind of got lost coming into this town, and rather than meeting up with Calculon, we speak with the leader of Westport, Vigilant Hogarth. Westport is made up of Protectorate defectors, and this guy we literally just met immediately asked us to help him get some automech parts. Lucky for us, our incompetence at the repair center already saw us collect the parts he needed, so we have them in hand and give them straight over. In return, he promises us assistance to get into the Vox relay and tells us about a hidden path we can access it if we have Protectorate jump boots in our position. We're 10 steps ahead of this bloke as we already have the double jump boots. The last thing he gives us is a writ of passage, which we can hand to a sentry at the gate who owes him a favour. It's at this point in the playthrough I realised just how many different ways there are to get into the Vox, and I got a bit excited and told all my mates that this game was better than New Vegas. That was a shit call on my behalf, and we'll see later on how it loses steam, and it was a ridiculous call to make. This bloke literally won't shut up, and he tells us once we get in, we also need to convince a soldier named Corbin to kill another soldier who's gone mad with power named Montelli. Apparently Corbin is a diplomatic type, so he won't want to kill him. Fucking Hogarth has just dumped all this information on us that we didn't really ask for, but it's worth it because listening to Hogarth and leveling up our patience also grants us a player level up, and we upgrade our medical skill to 2. We also get a pretty boring perk that increases our damage resistance, which we hope will stop us getting slammed by enemies, which you'll see it doesn't work. And because we haven't really specialised in any skills at this point, the game offers us the easily distracted perk, which gives you an extra skill point each level, but you can no longer level up skills you've already increased. It took me a while to figure out what the hell this even meant, so I eventually decline it, and because I don't want to live anymore after speaking to Hogarth, we end our own life. After we're respawning, we realise we can't just jump off cliffs to get to our destination, so we take the long way to Calculon through this town of crab people, and after dispatching of the crustaceans, we finally make it to Calculon. He's pretty pissed off with Niles and is a general arsehole, But while he was bitching and moaning, we hear a radio transmission from some of his colleagues who are attempting to sneak into the Vox relay who have been caught. A bit of backstory I didn't write in, so the next joke I make isn't going to make sense, but Calculon had previously had a mental refreshment. We agree to help, but want to teach Calculon some manners for being a dickhead, so we try to give him a mental refreshment of our own. Absolutely nobody likes that, and Niles teaches us some manners and shoots us to death. I guess we've learned that the hard way, so this time we agree to do the mission, and don't try to kill Calculon when he's not expecting it. We've got way too many quests at the moment, so we decide to try progress the story by heading to Corps' troops who can assist getting into the vault. On the way, we come across this guy by the name of Gary who is stupid enough to walk into a rift. I mean, what an idiot. Who in their right mind would willingly walk into a rift? Turns out all the warnings characters have given us to this point are correct, as we go to jump in and get disintegrated and killed. We're glad he does though, because he turns himself into a meat suit, but more on that later. Leaving Gary to the abyss, we continue our journey and wind up in a minefield, which gives us flashbacks to our Fallout 3 playthrough where we were domed by Arkansas from a nearby watchtower. Luckily we don't get sniped, and we're able to make it to Corps' troops, where we speak to the Commander Torres. We tell him he has to help us because we helped out Corps, and he says to us, no? That's a bit of a shock. Turns out one of their troops named Schultz recently got killed in the minefield, and unfortunately for us, he was holding a toy sprat named Scrabbles. This is probably the most stupid quest in the game, but we agree to go find the toy so we can have some help getting into the Vox. With no method to the madness, we just jump around aimlessly in the minefield like a psycho until we finally find Schultz and Scrabbles. And you know what? Now that I've seen Scrabbles, I'm glad I did it. We return to Torres and hand the toy back to him, and we find out it was a gift from his daughter. Don't get too teary-eyed though, there's no backstory to it at all, and the reason he wanted him back is because Scrabbles was full of drugs, which thankfully he gives us a cut of. Hopped up on Ket, we give Torres the go-ahead, and we get transported to the front of the bridge where Torres gives this riveting speech.
We're delivering death free of charge. Forward to victory, profits, and the further it... As Scrabbles is my...
Which we accidentally skip. Together with the troops, we begin our journey to the bridge and fight with honour until we realise we're going to get killed, so we run away and let them do all the work. Whilst people are fighting and showing bravery outside, we begin exploring a bit and come across this bomb suit that makes us look even more like that fat bloke from Dark Souls. By the time we're done playing Fashion Souls, we head back outside and luckily see our troops have trumped the Protectorate. We speak to Torres, who I wouldn't be surprised is voiced by Patrick Warburton.
The bridge is ours, and with nary a scratch to show for it.
And he confirms we have free passage across the bridge to the Vox relay whenever we like. Unfortunately, what we didn't realise was we actually had to lower the bridge, so I wasted a good 20 minutes or so trying to figure out how to get across before I used my brain and solved that puzzle that absolutely was not intended to be a puzzle by the developers. We crossed the bridge and made it to the right side of the island to access the Vox relay. Feeling pretty chuffed with ourselves, we walk straight up to the Vox relay gate and level up to level 7. We speak with the sentry guard at the front, who was the one that Hogarth told us about from Westport, and we show her the writ of passage he provided us. She offers to help us once and once only, so we tell her to get on with it. She chucks us in a trolley and sneaks us into a load screen which teleports us inside the Vox so we're able to avoid all the guards out the front. While sneaking around exploring, we come across Corbin and get front row seats to a show being put on by Montelli, the murderous psychopath Hogarth wanted us to kill. To us, he doesn't seem like too bad of a guy.
No. No, please! This is all a misunderstanding! We're loyal!
Oh, I completely misread that situation. We speak with Corbin after watching an execution, and he tells us he's an old friend of Montelli's, but has since lost his way. He also recognises us from Horizon Point, as it turns out Corbin is the one who we convinced to let us in right at the start of the game, as we pretended to be that dead guy. We did actually meet him in that mission as well, but funny story, right? When I was writing the script watching my footage, I actually missed that video as my tab with the recordings was partly off the screen. Actually, that's not a funny story at all. Lucky Corbin isn't one to hold a grudge, so once we show him Hogarth's writ, he agrees to help us. As Hogarth predicted, Corbin tries to tell us it'd be best to try to talk Montelli down rather than a more permanent solution. Luckily we have enough speech and the writ so we can convince this Mr. Beast lookalike here to side with us and kill Montelli when the time comes. With Mr. Beast on our side we can't lose, but before we go to confront Montelli, we head back outside the Vox relay and end up running through more bullets than those at Gallipoli to go rescue Calculon's crew. Thankfully for us, we're able to tank enough damage to eventually take down all the Protectorate soldiers nearby and find the prisoners, or prisoner, whose name is Baines. Turns out the rest of her crew was tortured and killed by the Protectorate. Baines gives us a cipher to bring back to Calculon, which should help him decode some Protectorate information that they have. We ask her to come with us, but she's got a bone to pick with the Protectorate and wants to go on a hero mission to sabotage a Protectorate ship and take down her captors. Given her name is Baines, it's fitting her mission is to
crashing this plane with no survivors.
And who are we to tell someone they can't kill themselves in a stupid last stand mission? Against Niles' advice, we tell Baines it's her prerogative and let her do what she wants to do. We leave Baines and we never see her again. Because we already used up our writ of passage with the guard at the front, we no longer have a sneaky way back into the Vox. And I'm sure you really don't want to see me die about 5 times as we try to tank our way through, or do you? Well, even if you do, I don't want to commentate it, so here's my successful run in, where I panic run straight to the door, get killed, but I'm able to revive myself to make it in safely, as enemies in this game can't open doors. And now we're back in the Vox Relay. Do you really want to see me sneak, shoot, and explode my way through hallways of enemies while I find access cards to confront Montelli?
Or do you want to see me sock a few dingers?
We've dinged, done. Enough now to protect you all from seeing me die another 10 times trying to get through to Montelli, so we take the elevator up to the boss room. As we enter, we see he's built like a brick shithouse and regret coming in here with the intention to kill him. Lucky for us, he gives Corbin, who's standing with us, a bit of lip and gives him a lot more attention than he's giving us. We quickly grow tired of him ripping into our boy though, so we begin the confrontation with a thought that if we're able to attack first, we should be fine. That was definitely misguided, as he's got more health than the devil and his dick, and it turns into one of the cheesiest fights we encounter throughout the entirety of the game. It does start off really intense with us trading shots at each other, but quickly devolves into us just staying out of reach and waiting our companions to do most of the work. We finally take him down and speak to Corbin, who's pretty traumatized about his whole character arc, and rightfully tells us he never wants to speak to us again. Well, we didn't want to either, so it's all good with us as we go loot Montelli's body and get his gun called the Chainspark Cannon, which as its name suggests, chainsparks enemies, which I think is pretty cool, and I use it for a lot of this playthrough. I also want to give this game props for just how many unique weapons there is in it, and not just those shit type of unique legendaries that Bethesda started rolling out with this procedurally generated star system. I don't really want to vent about Fallout 4 at the moment, so with that out the way, we enter the Vox Relay control room where we spend about 20 minutes looking for DeFreeze's safe room. I was almost certain the game had glitched as I jumped around this room and inspected this console about 5 or so times, when I eventually decide to open my eyes and unwrap this suspicious chocolate bar. Actually, no, fuck that. There's no self-deprecating humour here. That's bullshit, and that's a ridiculous place to hide a keycard. I just disagree. Anyway, we use a card to access the terminal at the front of the room and open DeFreeze's safe room. In it, we find a computer we hack into, and we seem to have met our match in DeFreeze because after reading information that she has allies at a place called Golden Ridge, she transmits to us that her failsafe has been activated. It's not a very nice failsafe either, as it activates a launch protocol with the Vox Relay, which will see it crash into Fairfield. At this point, PlayerName's a bit angry because it seems every time DeFreeze speaks to us, she's tried to kill us, but instead of angrily abandoning the ship like a coward, we go to assess the control terminal to see if we can prevent the destruction of Fairfield. We have the option to change the crash location to Westport, which seems kind of cruel, although it may save people having to listen to Hogarth talk too much more. But that seems a little bit too low karma of a thing to do, so instead, with our gambling background and our lucky trait, we try hitting the console and hope it does something good. To our surprise, it actually does, as it redirects the Vox Relay into space, saving everyone from harm's way. Except for us, as we still need to make it off the relay before we die. We try to leave our companions behind in the elevator, as it's every man and robot for themselves, but luckily for them, they have teleporting abilities and make it in. Still attempting to leave everyone behind, we make a mad dash for the exit, and manage to make it out as we get a cutscene which shows the Vox Relay's launch into space. PlayerName has done it again. We've all made it out and now have our new main quest named On the Trail of a Traitor, which directs us to a planet called Dorado, which hosts Golden Ridge. This information would be all well and good if we could actually get off of Paradise Island, but as we attempt to make our exit, we're swarmed by dozens of enemies which do a pretty good job at killing us numerous times. In genuinely one of the harder combat sections for me during my playthrough, this took me a shit ton of time to fight through before I finally dwindled the numbers down enough to escape and sprint my way to safety. I let out a massive sigh of relief when I finally made it back to the bridge and met up with this hulking man, Commander Torres. But there's not too much time to chat with him as we want to get the fuck off Paradise Island. On our exit, we do the rounds and head to Westport to see how reactive this world is, and after speaking with Hogarth, we see it's not very. Well, let's go check how reactive Calculon is. However, before we start talking with him, he gets distracted by the sight of a Protectorate ship taking off before quickly exploding, as we see Baines has successfully completed her mission. Now she's just going to blow up Gotham. Calculon is pretty livid that we didn't dissuade her to, not kill herself, but like the ADHD brain he is, once we hand in the cipher, he gets over it pretty quickly. He apologises for being an arsehole earlier and gives us a mod kit for Niles. These are the rewards in the Outer Worlds 2 for doing companion quests and offer pretty cool buffs to companions as well as aesthetic changes depending on your selections. For example, with this one, I turn Niles into the Phantom of the Opera. We're just about done with Paradise Island, but before heading off, we decide to clear up the last remaining fog of war on our map and come across this building which has been overrun by Raptidons called the Ministry of Accuracy. As we head inside, we hear someone shooting and come across a woman named Inez. She's affiliated with Auntie's Choice,
but I fancy myself something of a biologist,
and is somewhat of a scientist herself. She's from the Enhanced Soldier Division within Auntie's Choice, which rather than taking super soldier serum like Captain America, they have modifications grafted to them from alien wildlife that gives them unpredictable abilities. Inez definitely can't do this all day and says her work at the facility is done, so we leave her to it and leave the Ministry of Accuracy. Before heading to our ship, we head back to Fairfield to gloat and hopefully be rewarded for saving the town. Instead, we again interrupt Milver Street mid-conversation, but this time it's with Inez, who we literally just met. I assume we were supposed to run into her earlier, but because we ignored Claude's advice, this all happens pretty quick for us. We butt in on their conversation and tell Milver Street we can fix Inez's grafted arm. I don't know why we do this, as it's really not our business, but it leads to Inez quitting her employ under Milver Street. We leave the chat and head to speak with Inez, who offers to join us as a companion if we fix her graft, which we agree to as we could use an enhanced soldier on the team. She seems much tougher than Niles, so we tell him to piss off for the time being and agree to speak to Doc Tinsley, who can assist us with Inez's graft. We head straight to Doc Tinsley and speak with Tilda Swinton, who tells us of a few grafts on Paradise Island she can fix Inez's with. One of these is the Moby Dick Crabble we were looking into before, so we get a hard on and tell her we'll go get that one. The other option we have is a Raptidon Matriarch, but that sounds dangerous, and we really don't care about that one as much, so we tell Inez we're just going after the Crabble. Inez hints to us she'd rather us get both, but I'm not risking my life twice, so we head straight to the mysterious cave, and Inez assists us to divert the power to the Phonotron. I don't know what that means. We're now able to activate it though, and that spawns our white whale, or Crabble.
Hello, beastie.
The battle's on and we go into all-out war with a bunch of Crabbles. Using our chain spark cannon, we're able to cook us up some skeleton crab, which allows us to loot the graft from its corpse. And while the main one's dead, we finish off the remaining crabs because we don't allow survivors in this bracket. As we're leaving, Inez suggests we go for the other graft too again, but she's in no position to be making demands, so we head back to Tilda Swinton instead. As we head towards the dock, we get reminded we leveled up at some point during that ordeal, and put some more points into science and guns. At this stage, we're really leaning into the science build, as we pick a perk that gives us the power of Thor, and increases our fat electricity stacks and super packs. Once we arrive back at Dr. Tinsley's office, we have a brief chat with everyone, and once again decline Inez's request to hunt down the Raptidon. We only give her the Crabble option, so she undergoes the surgery and gets this nifty new white crab shell arm, which is both underwhelming and disgusting. If Inez rocked up to my birthday party with this arm attached to her, she would fall in the "I'm trying to eat cake here" tier. We've wrapped everything up we want on Paradise Island, so we head back to our ship and get intercepted by a courier from the faction called the Order of the Ascendant.
There you are. I was expecting you 4 minutes and 27 seconds ago, but never mind that.
Why the fuck would he say that?
Well, I'll tell you why. The Order of the Ascendant is a faction who relies on advanced mathematics, which allows them to all but predict the future. It's a key part of the Outer Worlds 2 questline, and we'll touch more on that later. For now though, this courier was sent to deliver a message to us from Golden Ridge. What a weird but pleasant interaction that was. We head back into our ship and play the message in our terminal. It's here we're introduced to the leader of the Order of the Ascendant, Ruth Bazaar. She's wearing a really spiky helmet, which isn't important at all, and she tells us we're on the same side wanting to stop the Protectorate, so to travel to Golden Ridge and speak to Abbot Newell in a settlement called Matriarch's Mercy. It seems all past at the moment are leading to Golden Ridge, that is until we go to head there and Val intercepts us, telling us we have another location we can now travel to called Free Market Station. As much as I really want to progress the story, I can't resist heading to an optional location first, so we set our sights for the Free Market Station and fly there. We don't know what to expect when we land, so we elect to take Inez and Niles with us. Free Market Station looks so cool on arrival and has so much potential, but unfortunately it seems to be missing some sort of content, as it houses a black market smuggling ring called the Sub Rosa, who do absolutely fuck all throughout the playthrough. As we start exploring the station, we steal enough things to be offered my favourite flaw of this playthrough, which is kleptomania. The negative effect of this flaw is your character will randomly steal items throughout townships to the rest of your playthrough, and the positive is that all stolen items net you serious bank. I take the flaw because it seems fun, and head further into the station where we come across an Order of the Ascendant agent who's trying to figure out the history of the station. We explore around a bit and eventually make our way to this hidden cargo ship where we find this puzzle, which again, as a common theme for this game, I spend about 10 minutes failing before realising there's probably a gadget I unlock later to complete it, so we move on to the Market Bazaar. My issue with the Outer Worlds 2 arose on Free Market Station, as there's really not all that much to do here, and with the content filled first world, it's a bit jarring, and I felt it doesn't really respect your time. And I want to break that cycle, so let's speedrun through Free Market Station, because nothing really that important happens here. Once we're in the bazaar, we make a few credits from Robin, then talk to this paranoid bloke who fleeces us of those credits that we just made in order to tell us the history of Free Market Station, which just turns out that a junior engineer sabotaged the station, causing it to crash after he got demoted. Because we're livid we paid him a shit ton for that information, our kleptomania flaw procs stealing his goods, which sends Tinny Tim from Futurama to us, which we're able to bribe our way out of. This allows us to freely turn in our quest to Morpheus from the Matrix, who then gives us more credits. Can you see how pointless this shit is? Because of that encounter too, we're now terrified of the kleptomania perk as we explore the rest of the station, walking around and approaching vendors with our necks snapped up like we're a fucking pelican downing a delicious fish, when we walk into this bar and see a robot man named Tristan arguing with Rhett from Red and Link. Tristan is a protector at Arbor, who, contradictory to my previous sentence, isn't actually a robot, but is a high-ranking protectorate official that enforces the law through force, which often means killing people. So simply put, he's a United States police officer. He wants to speak with an information broker who the bartender is gatekeeping, but says he will let us through if we go investigate a refugee camp that's gone silent on Golden Ridge. Tristan protests to work with us for a second, then realises he's a companion in this game, so he says he will meet us there. Now all paths are definitely leading to Golden Ridge, so after we explore the bar for a bit and chat with this frog of a woman upstairs who wants to see our Tossball card collection, which isn't a euphemism, we return to our ship and fly to Golden Ridge. Taking Niles and Inez with us, we land the ship and are met with a breathtaking view of this woman drinking from a yard glass. We then take a breathtaking view seeing a nearby Auntie's Choice base get absolutely fucking nuked. We'll get to those bombs dropping later, but for now, exploring Golden Ridge, we realise it's the Wild West Wasteland planet as we get absolutely creamed by the first group of raiders we meet and try to kill. On second attempt, we play it more safe and seek our revenge before wreaking havoc through a couple more camps. In one of them, we come across this Dr. Automech who's a little bit loopy, but using our lucky trait, we tell it to fuck off back to where it came from, to a nearby settlement called Matriarch's Mercy. Because we can't go anywhere in this game without getting distracted, we run across this guy named the Secretive Elder, who looks pretty good for his age, and it turns out he's lost some files at a nearby scrapper camp. We respect our elders, so we scale up High Hrothgar, killing everyone in our path to get them. On the way up, we read a note which tells us that the refugee camp we're supposed to be going to with Tristan has recently been overrun by automechs. We continue up on the mountain and hit this castle on the hill and a bunch of scrappers who have made it their home. Sneaking into the castle, we sneak up on this game's equivalent of Ornstein and Smo, who we eventually fry, and we find the Secretive Elder's secretive documents. As we watch the sunset over the castle on the hill, we return the documents to the old fella. As soon as we give him the documents, he immediately drops the act and reveals to us that it's actually from Sub Rosa. We're a little disappointed he lied to us, but we wipe away our tears with the credits he gives us, and he also promises to put a good word in for us with a Sub Rosa group in Matriarch's Mercy. So it's a win-win really. Another win for us is we finally make it to the refugee camp where we meet up with Tristan. It doesn't take a detective to realise the place has been shot to shit, but it does take a lazy arbiter to figure out exactly what happened as Tristan gets us to do a job for him. We search around the camp, picking up clues until we can find no more, and return to Tristan, who tells us exactly what happened anyway? What the fuck was the point of that? Because I'm definitely not as observational as Tristan, I'm just going to report his take that the refugees were selling information on the Protectorate to Sub Rosa, and when the Protectorate found out, they sent a sentinel to kill them. I am so glad we journeyed all the way out for that, but before we can leave, we end up getting ambushed by a few mechs that don't stand a chance, and Tristan tells us that whenever we're done on Dorado, to meet him back at Free Market Station. I mean, seriously, he really could have just done that whole quest himself. Time to move on to the main quest and meet up with Abbot Newell at Matriarch's Mercy. On the way, a refugee flags us down asking for help, saying his family's been attacked and needs medical treatment. He's probably the most suspicious guy in the whole of the Arcadia system, but we go with him anyway, as the inevitable ambush will give us XP. As we run with him, we inevitably get ambushed, which gives us some extra XP, as I just said. After looting those corpses, we run a bit further through another disgusting colour palette of a world and arrive outside the front of Matriarch's Mercy. And just like Dr. Braun's fucked up Tranquility Lane section in our Fallout Too Long Didn't Play, I didn't realise till writing the script that the entirety of the video files were black screens to this, so I don't have any recordings. We either have two choices here. I could let you listen to the black screen audio like this for a bit, or I could do a speedrun of what happened and what you missed, while you get to watch me and how I acted when I realised I'd lost hours of footage. What we did was we walk into Matriarch's Mercy and speak to some refugees who wanted to move to a hostile zone, which the Order of the Ascendants didn't want as they prophesized their demise. We don't give a shit about that. We also went to speak to Newell as Ruth told us to, but I don't even remember what the fuck happened, so let's just try wing it. I kind of recall doing a mission for Newell where we investigated a Ziranium factory, which is where that nuke we saw when we landed was launched from. We spoke with an initiate there who's framed for launching it, and it turned out the initiate is a deep undercover Order special agent named Marisol, where if you side with her, she ends up killing the person who framed her, and then you recruit Marisol as a companion. We then also had to go to an N-ray range, where we had to kill a bunch of invisible guys with a new gadget called the N-ray or something like that, and found a co-conspirator of DeVries named Victor Clements, who had a bomb strapped to his chest, who we talked down and told him to stop being a fuckwit, so he ended up siding with us. We also found out that Abbot Newell had sabotaged the career progression for some other guy named Seer Wiley, so once we confront the Abbot about that, he admits it to us and confesses before we go to confront Seer Wiley, who's also working with DeVries. This was a really cool moment where we talked him down with speech checks and information we found during the quest, but I won't go into it as I'm sure you're sick of watching me be depressed on screen right now. And we're back. We're back on our ship and this is what Marisol looks like. I bet you didn't expect that. We have a mission debrief as we found out in Matriarch's Mercy that peace talks between the Order of the Ascendant and Auntie Cleo's are taking place on Greater Tranquility Station, and DeVries is heading there, planning on killing both treaty representatives. When I say that now, boy did we miss a lot from that video corruption. Even though this is definitely the most important and time critical quest in the game so far, that doesn't mean shit to player name, so rather than head there, we head back to Free Market Station now that we have our N-ray scanner, which looks like this by the way, and spend way too long trying to figure out that puzzle we couldn't before. Lucky we do though, because during the show of 0 IQ, we get offered another flaw called Energy Hog, which gives us more gadget energy at the cost of slower recharge, which I don't think was worth taking in hindsight, but we did it anyway. And then once the puzzle was solved, we unlock a room that has shit loot, which makes me rethink my prioritization skills. If that wasn't bad enough, what makes me question them even further is we go to meet up with Tristan again while we're on Free Market Station and finally get Rhett to let us go see the information broker. He tells us we can access a secret room, which is a really cool Sub Rosa secret base, but when we speak to the information broker, who is a second NPC that looks a bit like a frog, he confirms to us what we already know, and that's that Tristan's mentor was murdered from the inside, and then we never come back to this location ever again. I bet you're wondering, how do we already know that? I forgot to mention it when we first met Tristan. It turns out he was looking for information on how his mentor was murdered. Given we never go back to the Sub Rosa base, I have no idea what the developers were thinking. Looking at such a cool location and the secret organization, which has so much potential, and they do fuck all with it. God, this game makes me so mad. Speaking with Tristan outside the bar and away from the Frogman, he tells us we have a knack for questing, even though not only did it take 20 hours to get to him, but he ended up solving his own mystery, and even after all of that, he still wants to join us as a companion. He seems like some good muscle to have around, so we welcome him aboard. After speaking with Tristan, we head off to the shops and do some slow trading to get more credits when we realise that we're supposed to be stopping an assassination, so we decide to quickly run back to the ship and fly to Greater Tranquility Station. It seems this is a pretty important quest, so we take Niles with us, as he's got a score to settle with DeFreeze, and Tristan for some muscle. Once we land on the station, I quickly hold up our mission once more to craft some items, which the game decides to then floor me up, offering me the Hermit floor, which looks like dog shit because it decentivizes purchasing at stores and promotes crafting, even though I fucking hate crafting, so I decline it. The issue with going up against someone who's working with Order the Ascendant Outcast is that they can predict the future and they know that we're coming, so we end up getting intercepted by this soldier. He tells us we're too late to stop DeFreeze, and he mentions he won't talk to us after we let the hostages die on Golden Ridge. This would be a cool moment, however he immediately backtracks and continues to talk to us, and then we use a few speech checks, which not only stops him attacking us, he then actually gives us easier access so we can sneak through the rest of the station while avoiding guards. There's a bit of like puzzling to find our way through to DeFreeze, and also this cool moment where we're able to power a lift using the Electrotherapist offensive perk that we picked earlier, which I thought was pretty neat. After we deal with a huge fan of the channel, we finally find DeFreeze. She's as angry as ever and gives us a frosty reception.
Believe it or not, I was happy you survived.
Well, you don't sound too happy. As we briefly outlined before, DeFreeze wants the peace talks to fail, as she believes if the Rift data falls in the wrong hands, like Auntie's choice, it would be detrimental for Arcadia, as it will only do evil with it. She explains she has seen a prophecy from the Order, which has them on the verge of learning to control the Rifts, but they just need the right data and a prototype modulator, which is in a secret protectorate lab on a world called Praetor. Even though she can see the future, we weren't part of our plan, and we're the unexpected variable that keeps interfering. So to make a long story short, in the words of Scooby-Doo villains, she would have got away with it if it wasn't for us meddling space captains. I'm sure we could have talked DeFreeze out of this, but she's been pissing us off since literally the start of the game, and due to our money mindset, we want to side with Auntie's choice later. So unfortunately, with an antagonistic comment, it's time for DeFreeze to end up dead. Well, that was surprisingly easy. Peace wins in the end, by way of murder, right up until the point that Apex Typhon from Prey spawns in and starts engulfing the Greater Tranquility Station. We take DeFreeze's sniper and some decoded Rift data and call it a successful day as we parkour our way through the exploding station and make a great escape back to the incognito. As we fly off, we see Greater Tranquility Station begin to be engulfed by rifts, which is apparently enough for this guy to re-enter the game. Supposedly the rifts have worsened and the system of Arcadia only has months before it's destroyed. Due to the urgency, he activates Order 66, which supposedly gives Earth Directorate agents liberties to act in any way they see fit, even if it goes against Directorate guidelines. This is all well and good, but I'm pretty sure I've been doing that anyway up until this point. I mean, I just murdered DeFreeze, and we also let those innocent hostages die on Golden Ridge, but at least now we may not get charged with war crimes, I guess? Thanks, random guy. And in case you weren't following, which I certainly was not, Val gives us a massive exposition dump which lays out our next two tasks. We can either travel to Praetor to get an experimental rift modulator, or head to a planet named Cloister and access an archive computer which will help us process the rift data we just picked up from DeFreeze. To do the latter, Val recommends us seeking assistance from either the Order or Auntie's Choice, as they've both accessed the archive previously, and seeing as we saved their lives on Greater Tranquility Station, they're both willing to work with us. That all being said, that sounds like a lot of politics, and I'm not in the mood for that, so we tell Val we'll head to Praetor first. Before we can escape the conversation with Val, we get this offer from Auntie's Choice.
Greetings, morally gray potential contractor. You've been pre-selected for membership in Auntie's Choice Esteemed and Valuable Disposable Agent Program.
Which is on point for them, and this opens up a pathway to travel to Auntie's Choice's headquarters, which is named the ACS Undisputed Claim. Before we head anywhere, we speak to Niles, who's doing the old revenge didn't make me feel better shtick. Given he was the one who really wanted to kill her last mission, I don't really have time for his wallowing shit, so we go to our navigation system and decide to head to Praetor. Because he's not done crying, before we can leave our ship, Niles stops us and let us know his old friend Calculon has contacted him and requests we meet him at the tomb of the matriarch. Niles is really pushing the friendship with all the favours, but we head off our ship with him and Tristan to see what happens. As we step onto Praetor, we see the Elden Ring, as well as leveling up to level 15. I missed a shit ton of level ups in the great video corruption fiasco of 09, so let's catch up. Look at the screen now and you can see I'm loading up guns, science, speech and lockpick. Wasn't too entertaining, was it? Bet you're glad you looked at the screen. Our first mission on Praetor to stop Niles from crying so much is to head to Calculon, which ends up with us getting swarmed on these rocks by about 50 Raptidons. No problem though, because we get past them and move on to our next location, where we get swarmed by about 50 Raptidons. After dispatching of them, we head to this nearby cave to explore, where you guessed it, we get swarmed by another 50 Raptidons. So at this point I realise, Praetor kind of sucks. I should probably mention the main quest currently on Praetor is to find a way to the west side of the planet to access the rift modulator, which we can't do due to Protectorate fortifications. That really shouldn't matter though, because by the looks of it, it looks like we're going to be getting devoured by Raptidon soon anyway. After disrupting Praetor's ecosystem by killing even more wildlife, we make it to the tomb of the matriarch where old Kauki is waiting for us. Asking why he's summoned us, Calculon reveals while he may be a necrophiliac, he's not just here for the bodies, but rather wants to access a vault within the tomb that holds the intelligence that his team died for. We head inside and take a quick history lesson and find this fine piece of kit, then move forward into the tomb. Almost immediately we see two museum nerds wetting themselves over the matriarch's tomb. I'm pretty sure when I was playing this I thought they were robbing the museum, so rather than trying to sneak past them, I immediately opened fire on their backs and we kill them both. I still don't know if that was the right thing to do, but I still don't care. As with most murder, we get rewarded with a golden shroud display key on one of their bodies, so we head back to the lobby and get that nice outfit from before. While it does actually look cool, the perk it comes with seems like a serious drain on the pockets, as you lose half the damage which is inflicted on you in bits, so we chuck it back in our wardrobe and we never see it again. Now we're done playing dress up, Tristan speaks to us and says he's shocked that the people I just opened fire on without them knowing fought back. I don't know if he saw that situation unfold correctly, but I'm pretty sure it was our fault. We move on with our heist team to make our way to the security room when we stumble upon the museum's head curator. He seems like a pretty nice guy and asks to be spared, but at this point Calculon's turned bloodthirsty and suggests we kill him. Niles thinks the opposite, but because he's been annoying me recently, we go with Calculon, but we tell him to do his own dirty work.
Matriarch, preserve me!
With no one to stop us, we move onwards and have to mission impossible it through this invisible wire room, which is pretty easy as our end-rain makes it a visible wire room. Making it through, we come to our final hurdle to making it to the vault, which is pulling these levers in the correct order to unlock the door. I immediately pull the first lever I see, and security is sent on us. After successfully not dying, we do eventually figure the puzzle out and unlock the door, which earns us another level up. Talking you through the skills at this point is getting boring, but I'll tell you which perk I got, which is a weak spot scanner perk, which gives me extra weak spot damage. Damn, I guess that's pretty boring too. Before we access the vault, Niles has a car park conversation with us about how Calculon is turning a bit cuckoo, but because we're not a gossip, we fob him off and Arkham Asylum our way into the vault with this explosive gel, which we never use again, even though I'm pretty sure it looks useful. We've successfully pulled off a vault house, and we talk to Calculon who's in the vault to see what his precious information says. We find out the Earth Directorate struck up a deal with the matriarch years ago, where in exchange for skip drives, Arcadia could operate without any outside interference, especially from the likes of filthy Earth Directorate agents. I mean, us. Calculon takes a shit ton of offense to this deal, as it means the Earth Directorate were complicit to letting the matriarch rule Arcadia however she wanted. He also finds out that the matriarch lied all that time ago, and she did not invent the skip drives as is believed by the people of Arcadia. Messages from the matriarch and the sovereign confirm this, and given all the Protectorate ideology is built on this lie, Tristan obviously isn't too happy. Calculon wants to share this information with Arcadia to take the power away from the Protectorate, and share the skip drive schematics with all so the Protectorate no longer have the technological advancements. Calculon's a dum-dum though, and we tell him the skip drives are causing the risk, and that revealing the secrets isn't worth ruining the Earth Director's reputation based on that one decision they made back when. It all comes to a head when we tell him we should leave the vault without the information, so as all good diplomatics do, we threaten to kill him. Niles jumps in before this turns into a firefight, and in one of the worst speech checks of all time, we literally tell this guy to listen just a little bit harder, which completely 180s his whole philosophy, and Calculon agrees to try and find another way to liberate the people of Arcadia. While it's all well and good, we got a massive lore dump about the matriarch's lies. Given we're actually too cowardly to do a damn thing about it, the only thing we really gain from this mission is an upgrade for Niles. It's a bit of a fizzing end as we all just stand around in the vault awkwardly for a bit, twiddling our thumbs after that non-satisfying conclusion, so we decide to head out and walk past these non-hostile museum goers, which makes me think I really didn't have to murder those people at the start of the quest. Well, there's no time to think about that now as we leave the vault, and as expected, Niles begins crying to us again, so we tell him to stop crying and leave the Earth Directorate if he's going to keep whinging about it. He surprisingly agrees to do this, and we move on. I'm at a stage now where I randomly decided to start role-playing as the Predator against Praetor's fauna, which is fun for a bit, bit as I become player name King of the Monsters. Attempting to get to the west side of Praetor is a bit more demoralizing as we come across this Protectorate wall and realize we're in a mortar zone of Protectorate defenses. Fortunately for us, there are no New Vegas boomers, and because we can sprint in this game, we can easily run to safety right next to the wall and watch their insipid attempt at killing us. Unfortunately, no matter how hard we try, we can't find a way through the Berlin Wall, so we have to try elsewhere. This leads us to a camp that is run by Auntie's Choice, and specifically, we run into this sicko. She wants us to find a Gorvet egg, whatever the hell that is, and luckily for us, we'd already come across it as we were trying not to be killed earlier on, so we quickly finished that quest, which gives us a level up and this gun called the Bourse Blaster, which is a fun weapon you should definitely check out if you play the Outer Worlds too. This Auntie's Choice camp unfortunately is a classic Obsidian, where there's stuff to do, but because we're not up to it story-wise yet, can't really do much. For example, we come across this work factory where we see a bunch of people on strike and we can't do a damn thing about it. There's also this chemical factory we come across, and Ruby Rose here at the door tells us we can't enter. We get intimidated by her countdown.
2. Last chance.
So we head off and then come across White Mr. T, who throws us a bone and tells us that Auntie's Choice is currently trying to tunnel through the western side of Praetor. This is very useful information, but the rest of what he's saying is boring, so we skip through his dialogue. There's finally procs a perk I heard about from the marketing of this game called Foot and Mouth Syndrome. It gives you a timer on all your speech checks, and if you don't decide within the time a speech option, the game will select one for you. The positive effect you get from this floor though is a 15% experience boost. Without sounding like an asshole, this timer is so long, unless you have the reading comprehension of a mud crab, chances are this isn't going to affect you. So free experience boost, happy days. Time to get to the western front though, so we head over to the dig site to try assist. Reading the foreman's log, we find out that they had to stop digging as they began picking up readings on the other side of their tunnel. In a pretty nifty use of gadgets, we use our N-ray to see that there are Protectorate soldiers standing on the other side of the tunnel, which are causing those readings. We go and tell Foreman Broccoli Head, who's pretty happy with our findings, as we can now continue the dig. Maybe they just didn't want to animate the tunnel being dug through, so she sends us back to Mr. T first, and once we arrive at him, he sends us back to Broccoli Head, and now magically the tunnel's been dug through, and there's a battle between the Protectorate and Auntie's Choice we get to join in on. Using our Bourse Blaster, we're able to attach these gross explosive cysts to people and get the job done. You can also eat the cysts for a bit of extra health, which is a pretty cool feature of the gun. We've made it to the west and we're ready to move forward, where the first location we stumble across is a Protectorate's mental refreshment facility. It's a heavily guarded area, so the front door isn't an option, so we have to find a vent which allows us to break in. Unfortunately for me, which I only learned in hindsight, is this facility is part of a quest that we'll get later. This means I probably didn't get the most out of the location, which really is a bit of a bummer. After we enter the main lobby, we end up having to kill all the guards before we can travel further into the building via elevator. Once we're in, we walk through this funky looking hall, which turns even funkier as we get gassed and undergo our mental refreshment. Now I'm not hearing the bad part in all this, as this nets you an extra 1% experience earned. Now we're in the facility and refreshed, we speak to the concierge, who sort of looks a little bit like me. He's been refreshed as well, so there's not much help, and because there's no quest or anything, we're just exploring and there's not much to do here so far that we know of. Exploring a bit more, we come across the holding floor of all the mentally refreshed, which looks an awful lot like a prison, because I guess it kind of is. I was just walking around talking to broccoli heads and collecting items to figure out a way around this place as we're locked in, as we really didn't have any goals. All of this ends with us accessing the head refresher, Professor Gould, who as we approach him, he turns hostile on us and we have to dispatch of him. During our time here, we collected a bit of data as we explored the area, but again, because I have perfect 2020 hindsight, it's not going to be enough, and I'm pretty sure if we came here later, there would have been a way to not kill Gould. Once again, it's a bit of a bummer, but I guess that's the price I pay for exploring. We also see this mannequin with a funny hat. Funny hats aside, we've done all we can, and now we have access to leave the facility, so we head out the front door and sprint to the rift modulator as we get peppered and ran out of town by Protectorate soldiers. You know when people say running away from your problems doesn't fix them? I agree, because we run straight to where we need to go, but encounter a fuck ton more enemies. As any good non-coward should do, we're able to take these mechs down, which gives us access to the rift modulator facility. As we sneak through the halls of this place, we stop to watch a bit of TV. We see J. Jonah Jameson on the screen, who's console of the Protectorate. I know I haven't mentioned anything about this prior, but honestly, this took me by surprise too. Basically what he's here to say is the current leader of the Protectorate, Sovereign Varric, has been mutinied out of power, and Emery now leads them. Emery makes it seem like Varric self-admitted himself to mental refreshment, but of course, Emery's lying and he had him sent there. I'll explain in a bit more detail now, as I won't revisit it later, but Varric lost his family in the Horizon Point blast at the start of the game. This sent him in a downward spiral, and he wanted to start using the rifts to hopefully bring them back. Emery, on the other hand, was more focused on using the rifts to strengthen the Protectorate military. Apparently you can also visit Varric in the Mental Refreshment Center we were just at, but I missed that on this run through. By all reports, if you see him, he's a shell of a man and is completely brain damaged from his refreshment. Hope you're caught up on that lore dump now, because we're back to the present timeline, and because Emery now runs a Protectorate and we've got a rift modulator to find, which we do. Obviously there was more to it than that, but you're just here for the cool shit, and this rift modulator is cool as shit. It allows us to stabilize those micro rifts we've seen around the map, specifically that one that killed me at the start of this playthrough, and gameplay wise, it's worth going back to find them as they often come with endgame unique weapons and armor. Because we're locked in this room with the modulator, the only thing to do is use it, which gives us a way out. Unfortunately, Tristan doesn't seem that keen on leaving, as he takes the opportunity to tell us what he really feels about the console taking over the Protectorate.
I shall not rest until the consul pays for his treachery and Arcadia's rightful ruler is reinstated.
Jeez, tell us what you really think. Huh, you did. We use the new platforms to scale to our escape when a security chief Valancourt transmits to us for stealing the modulator. We head to an intercom section and have a casual chat with him. This casual chat doesn't go too well as he tells us he's going to kill us when we meet him in the hangar. Sounds like a date. Before we go and die though, we get a level up and pick a perk that makes enemies fearful when they witness us kill one of their colleagues. It's a good perk that you can only get if you've previously selected the Intimidator perk and really shows why build crafting in this game is top tier. Anyway, back to our romantic date with Death. We head to the hangar and sneak in while we have a researcher distract Valancourt for us. This gives us the perfect opportunity to get the jump on him and escape our fate. Oh, no it doesn't. Valancourt fulfills his promise and he kills us. At least as a man of his word. Round 2 goes differently though, as we go in a bit louder and take out this spider crab thing first before turning our sights onto Valancourt. Who would have thought a head-on approach would be better than sneaking in? With Valancourt dead and the rift modulator in hand, it's a good time to leave. So we leave and head back to the ship. On board the Incognito, it's Tristan's time to delay our mission by pitching his companion quest to us to see who killed his mentor, the Supreme Arbiter. While I did do this quest on my playthrough, I'm going to save you from the boredom of all the companions in this game. The person who killed his mentor was Virgil, a lifelong friend of his who walked in on the Supreme Arbiter about to pledge allegiance to the consul, so he ended up killing her. In my playthrough, I still elected to kill Virgil for his crimes, because at the end of the day, you just can't go around murdering people, bruh. Unless you're me, of course. Now I've wrapped up Tristan's quest in the least climactic way possible, we're going to take a quick detour before we continue on with our main quest, and we return to the Frog Woman on Free Market Station where we show her our collection of tossball cards we've collected throughout the game, which I told you wasn't a euphemism. This gives you access to a special inventory, again not a euphemism, and unfortunately for me, the worst financial decision I made all game. I ended up buying from her a science weapon sword, which is a pretty fun idea, which turns attacks into a music rhythm game, and also a rocket launcher that uses pitch balls. These two weapons bankrupted me, and other than testing the sword out immediately after buying it and not realizing how it worked at all, I never really used it. It does have a cool beat though. After testing out the rocket launcher on everyone, I reload the game and wipe away my sins, and we can continue on with our playthrough. I also decided I wanted to start using the shrink ray again at this stage, so you'll see me walking around with that a bit. As a short side note, I also travelled to Eden after this, and remember at the start of this video that guy named Gary who got sucked into the micro rift? Well, we returned there with our modulator and stabilised it. This doesn't bring him back to life, but unlocks a science outfit named Gary, where equipping it means we're now wearing him as a meat suit. Remember what I said before? Gary amps you up during battles throughout the game and also has tentacle things he hits enemies with. Take a look now, because this is the armor I used for the rest of the game. I also thought this was worth mentioning that at this stage of the Outer Worlds 2, I realised that standing and fighting every enemy on every world was a time and ammo sink, so I just started sprinting through maps to get to objectives. This led the game to offer me the reckless leadership flaw, because I kept leaving my companions behind to fight and die. This flaw means I can no longer revive them, but if they go down in battle, they're immediately healed. I reject that of course, because I'm not leaving these people to their deaths just so they can come back to life. This pure cowardice also helped us get to level 20, and in case you thought you couldn't trust player name before, you definitely can't now, as we select a perk which assists us with lying. It's our last bit of exploration before I get back to the story, but if you haven't played the Outer Worlds 2, you need to find this rift on Eden, which gives you access to the Goomerang. This is by far the best gun in the game and literally destroys everything.
Like Urkel.
Playname is back on his quest as he elects to fly to the ACS Undisputed Claim to hopefully work with Auntie's Choice to access the archive we need on Cloister. As soon as we land, we're blinded by sweet marketing and capitalism, which officially flicks the switch in Playname to be more money and marks the return of our counter. This has never been highlighted more than when we talk to Specialist Hoogerhide, which is a ridiculous name, and agree to put Auntie's Choice marketing in our ship, after threatening her for extra credits of course. The ACS Undisputed Claim isn't a good place for me, because as we're exploring, we end up selling our story to this radio host for a quick buck, and then spend a stupid amount of money talking to this pretentious concierge who charges us 600 credits to get into this exclusive club called The Best Choice. This prompts the game to give us the profligate spender flaw, which is another one of my favourites. The idea behind it is because I can't be trusted not to spend stupidly, a la the Dancing Sword, this stupid exclusive club, and other ridiculous spending we've done, for every sum of credits I earn, a percentage of them is sent to Vow. It's like a savings account. Every 5 levels you get those credits back with interest, and then if you hit a max level at 30, you get it all back with a shit ton of interest. While this is obviously detrimental to the here and now, I literally just spent 600 credits to get into a club that offers nothing, so we accept the perk. Because we can no longer spend big, we elect to continue the quest and speak with Vice President Hewitt, who invited us to join Auntie's Choice. She thanks us for saving her on Greater Tranquility Station and tells us we can continue the merger with the Order and Auntie's Choice. However, given the fact they both nearly died during the peace treaty, there's a bit of work to do, and we have to gain favour with both factions, which will gain us an audience with their leaders respectfully. Given we need at least one of them to help us get onto the archive on Cloister, we decide to play along with this. Hewitt tells us the best way to work our way up within Auntie's Choice is to talk to Tweedledee and Tweedledum in here, who act as our quest givers until our reputation gets up. While each of these quests are enjoyable, they require a lot of travel, so I'm going to skip most of that boring stuff for you, my favourite viewers. The first quest we get given is to break up that strike we earlier saw on Praetor at the factory. See, I wouldn't have mentioned it back then unless it came back up. We head back to our ship straight away and see the fresh new marketing we've had added from Auntie's Choice, and head to the factory on Praetor. Back to the old stomping ground, where we're here to put a stop to all these lazy, overworked workers. Unfortunately, the front door is still locked, so we have to sneak our way in through this vent, which gives us access to Auntie's Choice Overseer Griggs, who's literally one of the worst people in this game. She tells us we have to speak to the leader of the workers to negotiate their return to work conditions, so that's what we do. We head over to this bloke called William Dunbar, who's clearly being influenced by this Spacer's Choice conniver, Leo Grey. Grey's stirred up the strike for his own selfish purposes, but he does make some good points, as this discussion leads us to the negotiation terms that we're going to have to resolve. Here's one of the terms.
Our shifts need to be reduced to 12 hours a day. 4 hours of personal time ain't even enough to rest, much less get any actual living done. Second, if we gotta work those long hours, we want free Adrena time.
And here's the other.
Finally, we want all-day bathroom access.
Seems reasonable enough, so we go speak with Griggs again to negotiate. For their long shifts, we're able to talk her down to 18-hour shifts. For their free Adreno time request to help them work, we're able to blackmail Griggs, who's been taking a cut of selling Adreno time at a premium, and talk her not only into giving the workers free Adreno time, but giving us a bunch of bits. And as for the bathroom breaks, we get it off of them breaks. We head back to Dunbar to break the good news, who agrees to get the slackers back to work. This upsets Leo, as he actually was trying to get them fired so he could sign them up to Spacious Choice and get a recruitment bonus, but fuck that guy. It's back to Auntie's Choice for us to check in with Tweedledee and Tweedledum, and they're not too happy we got the workers shorter shifts and breaks, but they're happy enough to give us another quest. This time they want us to head to the Mental Refreshment Center and steal all the data they have on it. They also offer us a bonus if we're able to convince the head scientist to work for Auntie's Choice. But if you've watched the video up to this point, you know that's not going to be possible. My bad. Because most people are already dead in the Mental Refreshment Center, this is more of a time killer at this point, as we head back to the facility and collect the materials we missed earlier and head straight back to Auntie's Choice. There is about 20 load screens in real time, and I've condensed this to 15 seconds on YouTube. I should really do a Starfield Too Long Didn't Play. When we do return to our quest givers, they're not stoked the head scientist was killed, but once again they're happy enough with the information we were able to provide to them, and it's good to know that Auntie's Choice is probably going to start refreshing people too. These two quests seem to be enough to draw the attention of Auntie Cleo herself, who interrupts us on the television.
Tell me, as an outside agent, do you have any quandaries working with our organization?
Of course we don't. Have you seen our counter? We tell Cleo she should continue the peace treaty with the Order, and because our reputation is high enough, she agrees, provided we can get the Order on board. This levels us up to level 22, and we get a perk that makes a Goomerang even more deadly and overpowered. Because we've worked so hard, we're keen to see the peace talks through at this point, so we head back to our ship and to our last planet, Cloister, where we want to speak to Presiding Bishop Ruth. Without delay, we travel there, and with delay, before we head off the ship, Marisol stops us and asks us to do her companion quest. Because this video is fucking dragging, I'm definitely not touching this one with a 10-foot pole. Stepping onto Cloister for the first time, we see it's a token ice video game level. Anyone remember Mass Effect Andromeda? This reminds me of that. The first sign of life we come across is the mole miner, who fills us in on the conflict of Cloister. Currently the Order and Auntie's Choice are in a ceasefire, and the Order are bummed out that they've lost access to the archive. Hans Moleman points us to the Order's main operations base, Laplace's Garden, so we head towards that to meet up with Ruth. On arrival, we're met by this junior seer who gives us the rundown that we already know, do some quests for the lesser known ranked Order members, and we'll get to speak to Ruth eventually. All I can say at this point is fuck Ruth, I want to talk to this guy. What the hell is he wearing? What an idiot. Moving further into the garden, we meet the guy from the IT crowd. He tells us he wants the treaty to go ahead, and recommends we ensure we have enough speech points before going further. Lucky we've been working on that, but for the time being, we don't need them, as we speak with Craft Cheese here, who is the Order's equivalent of Tweedledee and Tweedledum. She tells us a nearby settlement needs our help, as it's been overrun by cultists. Hang on a minute. Preston, is that you? In hopes this isn't a Radiant quest, we head out to do that and immediately miscalculate the terrain and fall to our deaths again. Crossing the harsh wastes of Cloister makes you wish for a nuclear winter. As I run 1,000 kilometers across Cloister, I want to note this whole planet fucked me off with its caves and enemies, and its dead ends that don't look like dead ends on the map, but they stop you reaching waypoints. You know that kind of map that offers you nothing but bad things, then wonder why you think it sucks? That's Cloister. Although every time something bad happened to me, something good was waiting around the corner. Karma. The map's just trying to be a better person, and that facility's name is L. Niche my name is L reference aside, during our torturous wandering we come across this facility named L, which after killing a few guards and some puzzling, you can access this gun we found called the Big Bang. This is by far the most powerful weapon in the game, and its ammo is craftable from rift residue you find around the map. Once you charge this thing up, look at it go. Sheesh! Bet you haven't heard that one for a while. Now we have the Big Bang, we leave L like we're NBC and head back into the frozen wasteland to wander and get lost for another hour exploring caves and walking past cities. After finally reaching Nelson, we get into an all-out war with a multitude of cultists that have taken over the town. As we're low on health, this battle pissed me off to no end, and I swear it took me about 8 attempts to get through it without dying. I could just be bad at the game, but I swear the enemies in this mission do not stop spawning, and it's always the one last guy that would kill me at the end. On our final attempt we finally get through the cultist with the help of Gary, as he's incredibly good at whipping people while we reload, and level ourselves up to level 23, where I've now decided to max out speech with the looming peace treaty coming up. I believe with the modulator we could access the archive here alone by taming this big fuck off rift in the middle of town, but we return to Laplace's garden to boost our reputation with the order. Upon returning to craft, she's pretty stoked with our effort, but in true errand boy fashion, she tells us we need to go to Paradise Island and collect some data from a crashed satellite. Sorry, what? That's on another fucking planet, are you serious? A quick game's a good game, so we go and do that and talk to this Protectorate soldier. And for the last time, what is with this game and the haircuts? Anyway, we collect the data and then YouTube teleport back to Crafty. I should mention in between that, I did do a quest where I sold some order information to a Sub-Rosa spy in Laplace's garden, but it never came up again, so I don't think it's important enough to show. And even though we did sell that information, we still gain Craft's trust, so she grants us an audience with the presiding bishop and another level up, so we're cooking with gas now. Moving deeper into the gardens, we meet up with IT crowd guy one more time before speaking with Ruth. He reiterates to us that him and VP Hewitt from Auntie's Choice want to continue the peace treaty, so we have to mention it now to the presiding bishop. We head inside and Ruth has the biggest Mr. House entry I've seen in a long time. She's a stubborn one this one, but we wear Ruth down enough through our boring conversations to get her to agree to meet with Mum. The peace treaty sounds much more interesting than accessing the archive, so without hesitation, we head back to the ACS Undisputed Claim to mediate the peace treaty. Once we've landed, we head into the tower and down the secure telecommunications floor, where these absolute bots join for our meeting. It's actually a pretty good quest where both leaders go back and forth, and you can see Auntie Cleo clearly playing the game and Ruth reluctant and trepidatious, attempting to broker peace. They both make demands of each other, but we're able to mediate our way through, like when Ruth tries to gain access to that chemical factory we weren't allowed in on Praetor. The long and short of that is Auntie Cleo and I tell her no. They both make demands for access to Rift technology, and we're able to use our science skill to get them to agree that the order will make the technology safe once we access the archive, and then Auntie's Choice can manufacture more devices from there. Thanks to our speech and science skills, we're able to successfully negotiate peace, which prevents us needing to assassinate one of the leaders later on in the game. Auntie Cleo heads out of the meeting and invites us to go visit her when we have time. With our one-on-one time with Ruth, she helps us formulate a plan to access the archive, which is as simple as taking over a town named Spyroton, Hobbiton? Then accessing the archive and then letting the order and Auntie's Choice in via the elevator. She also tells us we'll need an item called a Caucaduceus? The shit is that? To operate the archive. We bid the presiding bishop farewell, and whilst we're still on the Undisputed Claim, we take Auntie Cleo's offer up to go visit her in her penthouse suite. Once we arrive, we meet with Tweedledee and Tweedledum and get the reveal that Auntie Cleo is just a head in a jar. And look, I've kept the Futurama ripoff callouts to a minimum at this point, but this is just ridiculous. What's next? A Cyclops? A robot devil? It's not going to be a Cyclops, is there? No, nothing so obvious of course, it's slightly more subtle. Much like Richard Nixon in that one episode, Auntie Cleo wants a mechanical body to be more powerful from an auto mechanical factory. Seeing as we love money, and she offers us plenty, we agree to her offer and set out to Praetor to find it. This is just a bunch of fast traveling again, but once we do arrive, we just mad dash through a bunch of Protectorate enemies, which leads us to the secret basement. In the secret basement, we find a super secret basement, and in it, Mum's new mechanical body, which isn't all that flattering. Body in tow, we head back to our ship and back to the undisputed claim to lock in our choice to side with Auntie's choice. It's the best choice. As we arrive back, Auntie Claire is stoked to see us, so stoked in fact, she fades our screen to black, and when the game loads in, we see her in a new body. She asks our thoughts on it, because there's no option to say it looks absolutely ridiculous. We stroke her ego for a bit. While the ego stroking does work to level us up to level 25, it's a little bit underwhelming that you can't really chat more with Cleo here, and she just stands there a bit robotically. I guess because she's a robot now. We've made a clearly morally evil person a powerful robot woman for the sake of corporate greed. There's nothing left to do but head back to Cloister and enter the archive. Rolling in hot, we head straight to Spyroton to action Ruth's plan and meet up with a posse who's full of Auntie's choice and the Order goons and this guy who again looks a bit like me. They agree to help us take over Spyroton, and this seems like a great idea until we jump in and immediately have all our health drained, so we mostly hide in this building during the fight and let everyone else do the killing for us. It seems to be a common pattern. Once we hear all the bullets have stopped firing, we can safely head back outside and help out. Because there's no more threats of gunfire, we lead the group, led by my doppelganger, to the lift and back up to Newton by ourselves. It's finally time to modulate this big rift, which we do, and to be honest, it's slightly underwhelming as it just activates this broken bridge we can jump across. Once we make it to the other side, we come across these mysterious rations of food, which to this day I don't know what they're here for, so if you do, let me know in the comments, and then we head down to the archive. If I'm being entirely honest, I was excited for this mission, but this mission fucking sucks, and I'm not just saying that because when we're fighting these enemies, the game gives us our second flaw related to our cowardly gameplay of letting our companions fight for us, offering the dependent perk, which we decline out of egotistical pride. The reason I hate this mission is it goes on forever, and what you have to do isn't even that fun, so let's get through it fast. First things first, we activate the Spyroton lift, which lets both our Auntie's Choice and Order associates come down and help us fight the reinforcements. I'm not dependent, you are! Turns out I am though, as our colleagues kill everyone except this one guy who I clean up at the end. We finally have access to the archive so we can process the rift data, or so we think, as we can't get through the door without the Calcadicas. You know what, I'm just going to call it the magic stick from now on. We go to look for it, and lucky for us, this Protectorate guard just so happens to be trying to leave his post due to a sore stomach. He holds a magic stick and shares our pain.
I am the bearer of the, I still have trouble saying that.
Me too, man, me too. We make a deal with him that we won't kill him and he'll give us a magic stick. This deal seems pretty fair to me, so we grant him safe passage and head straight to the archive door to head in. What in the old world blues is going on here? We speak to the archive, which is a computer named EUNIAC. This computer can help us process the rift data we have, but there's still video game padding to go. As we talk to EUNIAC, we see some maintenance is required, and it's currently split into 3 personalities. The one we primarily speak to is the actuational personality, which aligns with the Order. The other 2 are the profitalist and the sovereignist. The yellow one is the one we like, as it prioritizes corporate greed. Remember when I said I hate this mission? This is why. This fucking robot can't process our data until we fix the whole machine, which is about 3 fetch quests long. It's padding, it's bullshit, and we're skipping past it.
Have a profitable day!
Oh, I will. You just have to trust me that the last 1 hour and a half of gameplay wasn't worth watching, as I travel back to the archive after 3 different maintenance quests. The final twist in this quest is that we won't be able to process our rift data until we expunge 2 of EUNIAC's personalities, leaving only 1. If our counter didn't give it away at the start of this episode, we head into the control room to solve a puzzle which lets you select a certain personality for EUNIAC. Remember how I said we like the yellow one? Well, that's the one we select. Against the blue and red personality's outcry, we continue forward and set the archive to the profitalist personality. As with all computers, the way to fix a personality problem is to turn it off and on again, which we do. Oh fuck, that feels good. We head back up to the mainframe and have our money-hungry computer process the rift data. While he does that, he talks profit, which is music to our ears. After talking business with him for a bit, we finish up, and Val suggests we head back to the ship to pursue more leads with the processed rift data. On the way back to the ship, we get stopped by the Junior Seer, and as per our deal, we provide her with the magic stick, even though I'm pretty sure they're not going to be too happy with the archive's new personality. Before leaving Cloister for good, Ruth requests to speak with us, so we go speak with her, expecting to be chewed out for the decision we made. Fortunately for us, because we didn't admit to fucking around with EUNIAC's personality, she's actually very glad with the work we've done and blames the Protectorate for the profitalist personality it has.
She also mentioned a defect in its priority set, causing it to speak irrationally, installed by one of its previous occupiers. Pity you were not able to resolve this issue.
Hey, I got off pretty easy.
She bids us farewell, saying due to our hard work, when we decide to take it to the Protectorate, we'll have the Order and Auntie Cleo support. And that to me sounds like a good opportunity to return to my ship and get ready for the final mission. In the cockpit, Val sets up our climax by informing us that Horizon Point Station has just reappeared. This is a result of the Protectorate using their large-scale rift modulator to reconstitute it. Using the data from the archive, the only way to close all the rifts is with the Protectorate's large-scale rift modulator and inputting the processed rift data into it. Val gives us the classic make sure you wrap everything up before going to Horizon Point, signaling this is going to be our final quest. She tells us once we land, we'll have Auntie's choice in the order on our side, and with friends like these, who needs enemies? Playname's ready for his last hurrah, so we head to our navigator and travel to the reconstituted Horizon Point station where it all began. Before we leave, Val lets us know that the Consul Emery is also on Horizon Point Station in the Sovereign's flagship called Providence, and we'll have to stop him as well as putting an end to the rifts. We're ready to head out, but are left with one last difficult choice as to who we're taking with us. It's also here I realise I missed a companion on this playthrough, however if they're as boring as the rest of them, it really doesn't bother me. We select Niles and Tristan to come with us because realistically it doesn't matter that much, and we head out to Horizon Point. This whole quest reminds me of Killzone 3, which definitely isn't a bad thing, but it's just a bit of a shooting gallery and it looks a lot like it. It also doesn't help that as we're making our way through the station, we have to deal with this large energy beam coming from the Sovereign ship. There's not all that much to commentate here as it's mostly shooting and using our rift modulator to work our way through some pretty simple puzzles. However, things change when it's like we're seeing a ghost. Oh, nope, we are seeing a ghost as we come across a reconstituted Helen, our colleague from the first mission, except she comes with new devil eyes. It turns out she actually wasn't dead when we decided to leave her in the first mission. Whoops. And because she was caught in the rift explosion, she's reconstituted now. It's a little bit depressing, but if she continues like this, the rift will twist her mind until she doesn't know who she is anymore. So we do the moral thing and agree to shoot her in the face. And that's the end of that chapter. But the beginning of our final chapter as we continue to make our way towards the Providence. We've pulled out all the stops at this point, but before going any further, we decide to do a bit of quick maths. Doing maths in the middle of a war pisses us off though, and it makes us extra angry as we encounter the last line of Protectorate defenses before the Providence and we whip out the big guns to take down the last enemies. After confirming everyone's been obliterated to smithereens, we fly our way to the Providence for the final showdown. Much like the first Outer Worlds, the section on Providence starts with you and your allies fighting off the enemies. Talk about poor trigger discipline, as Playname lines up his big bang and takes out a room full of people, including Auntie Cleo. Oops. Lucky she's invincible now though with her new body, so she survives it. After the battle is done, she recovers pretty quickly, like she was a soccer player rolling around on the floor, until it's time to go. We speak with her briefly and she passes on a message from Ruth that the rift modulator is on the science deck one floor up. Before heading straight to Consul Emery, we decide to search around the science deck first as we want to be ready to talk him out of his plan and we may need supporting evidence to do so. During our search, we find this rift we're able to stabilize, which allows us to extract tissue from a reconstituted body. If you put this tissue into a centrifuge we located, you find out that once atoms go into a rift, they cannot be reconstituted the same way. We also find the chief scientist Jude Montserrat, who if you pass enough speech checks with, he'll confirm our research.
There is no proof that such data can be stabilized or even edited. The Consul's plan is futile, completely.
Lucky we're a gambler as we convince Jude to give us his computer access so we can download the report on why the Consul's plans won't work. Because Jude agreed, we quickly speak with Shodan and have the information we need to confront Consul Emery. They really like to ensure you're ready for the battle, as they make us travel up this elevator before reaching Emery. Before you can enter the room though, Auntie Cleo intercepts us and tells us she's coming in to speak with the Consul. It's good to have a bit of backup, and Auntie Cleo warns us if we want any chance of solving our battle diplomatically, we need to ensure we have all our ducks in a row and not come across too adversarial. I don't really know why we needed that advice, as we haven't necessarily murdered anyone so far.
Matriarch, preserve me!
Yeah, fair enough I guess. So we head on into our final confrontation. It's a really cool view as we enter, which is quickly ruined by this jump cut as J. Jonah Jameson begins to talk our ear off. There's no other way to present this in a timely manner, so I'm going to break down the conversation for you. The Consul explains his plan to us, which is to use their large-scale rift modulator to destroy Arcadia, where they'll be able to reshape it with their modulator to rebuild it in the perfect form. He also decides to carry on about how the Matriarch discovered the first ship drive, which we know isn't true, so we call him out on that. We're actually doing a pretty good job at talking him down until Tristan decides to speak, which really pisses the Consul off.
We're entirely out of your jurisdiction, and were I within reach, I would strike down this apostate dog myself.
We almost decided to fight him then and there, but changed our mind to continue on with the diplomacy. We start by telling the Consul he's losing the support of most of the Protectorate, which he really doesn't care about, and because we don't let Tristan speak about what the Arbiters speak of him, it doesn't work to talk him down. Our next attempt at it is to bring up Jude's report and that it won't be possible to rebuild Arcadia after it's destroyed by the rift. He doesn't seem to take to this either, but we have one last crack at talking him down, telling him if his logic is wrong, he's going to destroy everyone and everything he loves. Lucky this one seems to work, as we get a level 20 speech check we can select, which breaks through to Emery. The console surrenders, but unfortunately this conversation went too long. The rift is nearly completely destabilized, and the protectorate modulator can only stabilize it from up close. So basically it's a sacrifice mission. It's a Fallout 3 ending where someone needs to fly the Providence into the rift to stabilize it. At this moment, everyone in the room stands there twiddling their thumbs, not wanting to nominate, including ourselves. Lucky for us, we were so diplomatic, Consul Emery puts his hand up and says because it's his fault, he'll fix it and sacrifice himself. He takes our hero moment away from us and lets us fly off to safety as we watch the real hero of this game, Consul Emery, sacrifice himself and save Arcadia. With that, it's mission accomplished and into our final slideshow to wrap this puppy up by telling us what we did right or wrong. In the end, Fairfield survived. I don't know why, but Boring Hogarth was declared a traitor and executed, as well as all of Westport. Auntie's Choice took control of Matriarch's Mercy, which we don't really care about because it corrupted our video data. And most importantly, the Arcadia colony thrived under Auntie Cleo and the Order working together. That was, of course, until Auntie Cleo became power and money hungry and worked in the shadows to benefit herself. And what a money hungry way to end this Too Long Didn't Play. Thank you all so much for watching, and apologies this took so long to come out. With Christmas, New Year's and this game being long as shit, this really was a detrimental journey for my YouTube algorithm. Having a look at our final money count, we can see the final result is one that would make Mr. Krabs proud. These videos take incredibly long to make,